Nope. We're live.
Okay. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. This is the BrainyLaw talk on Pupillage 101, how to file your petition and fatal mistakes to avoid. I'm Jonathan, and as a former pupil, the first thing I learned in Pupillage is filing your borangs, filling them up is one of the biggest pains you have in Pupillage. So this should be helpful to all new and fresh pupils that are coming into the profession. With me, I have Weera, Poon, and Nathan from BrainyLaw. And then Weera will help guide us through the process and to answer any questions that we have. While I would be moderating the session, Poon and Nathan will be helping with the administrative and operational side of the stream. The way the structure will work would be in the first part, is where Weera gives a short overview of the Pupillage process, mainly the history. The second part would involve Weera taking us through each of the individual borangs up to borang 5, which we will explain later, and how to fill them up. The third part would be, that would be the third part. The second part is mainly on the fatal mistakes to avoid, because these mistakes in particular would cause a big issue on how your Pupillage process would be, and it will cause further delays or you have to restart. The third part would be taking us through the individual borangs and how to fill them up. And the fourth part would be Weera taking us on a live tour of the e-filing site in order to give us a look into how it works and a brief overview on how to check it. Then last part will be for us to answer any questions from the audience, which you feel free to ask in the comment section, and we will get to them in time, unless there is something urgent that comes up, and we will address them as is the moment. So firstly, why don't each of the people from BrainyLaw, why don't you give a one sentence introduction on who you are and what you do? Weera?
Yes, okay. Hi, my name is Weera. I'm currently practicing as a litigation lawyer, and I'm reaching my 4th year of practice. And throughout these 4 years, there has been a lot of questions and also issues that were addressed to me, especially in regard to pupillage, and also particularly in the aspects of filing of their borang and chambering petitions. Of course, there are other issues such as harassment or any other matters pertaining to bully at work, and also other types of guidance in respect of pupillage and also practice in general. So usually I would be able to advise pupils on what to do or how to cure these problems. Whenever, of course, the problem requires a certain attention of particular people, then I would direct those pupils to the right person. And for today, I hope with this webinar, there will not be any more fatal mistakes affecting the pupils, or at least less. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Weera. Poon, would you like to introduce yourself?
All right. I'm Poon. I'm also part of the BrainyLaw. I don't really contribute as much as Weera on this matter. We are just trying to help out the other fellow, all these new and young practitioners coming into the practice. So be it pupillage matters or even other legal matters, you can actually come and ask us. If we can help you, we will help you. If not, we will guide you to the correct channel to help you. Yeah, that's all from me. All right, guys.
Yeah, hi, I'm Liang, basically the only law student in BrainyLaw, and yeah, that's pretty much it. As simple as that, nothing much to add.
Okay, thank you guys. As previously mentioned, I am a former pupil and I decided to pursue opportunities elsewhere after pupillage. So let's move on to the first part of this webinar, where we will go with the basic background of the pupillage process. For those in the audience, the basic background is the pupillage process involves 8 borangs to fill. They are split up into 3 sections. Borang 1 and 2 is to start your pupillage. 3, 4, 5 would be for your short call to gain certain rights of audience, which is especially important for litigation pupils. Then for 6, 7, and 8 is for your long call, which is basically to finish your pupillage. For this webinar, we will be covering Borangs 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5. We would not be handling Borang 6 to 8 in this webinar. Okay, Weera, why don't you give us a brief introduction on the overview of the pupillage process, history, background, and so on.
Yes, okay, thanks Jonathan for the introduction. So basically what pupils need to know is to file or to initiate their chambering petition. Of course, they would have learned in law school, they would have to file their originating process. And for the purposes of their chambering, they are to file their chambering petition, namely Borang I. Okay, Borang I is the chambering petition. Together with Borang I, of course, there will be affidavit in support, verifying the Borang I, and also another Borang II to support the contents of Borang I. Okay, so this is one of the these are the few basics that pupils need to know. Okay, of course, where can they get these borangs? These borangs can be downloaded anywhere in the website or even the BrainyLaw website articles and whatnot. Of course, pupils can also draft them, but over the years, these borangs exist to simplify the lives of pupils. So whoever started this like 10, 20 years back, it's rather, I mean, we are to thank them for their efforts lah, for simplifying the process. Okay, so few basic terms I'm just going to let pupils know before we start is I'm going to use a lot of B1, B2, B3. That would mean Borang 1, Borang 2, Borang 3 and whatnot and so on and so forth. Okay, there's also going to be PSP or OIT, meaning order in terms, meaning whatever you prayed for, whatever you applied for in court is successfully granted to you. Okay, and also RKKK means Rayuan Kuasa Kuasa Khas, meaning this is the branch of the court which will be dealing with all these petition matters. No matter where you are in the West Malaysia, RKKK will be the court to go to. Okay, so this is very, very basic. And before I go on any further, I would have to explain that the tutorial or the webinar today will only cover West Malaysian pupils. For Sabah and Sarawak, of course, there will be some distinct application to be called there in the Sabah and Sarawak state. Okay, so as Jonathan had mentioned just now, we would be focusing first and working in reverse by talking about the fatal mistakes to avoid. Why are we bringing this in reverse? It's because most of the fatal mistakes start at the beginning of pupils filling in this Borang 1, Borang 2, Borang 3 and whatnot. Okay, they file it at the wrong court, they file it at the wrong with the wrong details and whatnot, and by the time they know about the mistake, sometimes it is just too late. Okay, so what are the effects of this mistake? If they realize the mistake late, chances are by the time 3 months into your pupillage, the Malaysian bar contacts you. Hello, you have filled in something wrongly in your petition. You have to either file an application or you have to refile your petition again, meaning your 3 months has been burned, your filing fees has been burned, you have just wasted your time, cost and money and whatnot. Okay, and of course you would enrage your master for wasting a few precious months. Okay, so if possible, pupils should avoid these very, very common but basic mistakes, which we will go through and one by one later as we go on. Okay, so if it's possible, Nathan, maybe can you change the next slide? Okay, so I've summarized these 12 fatal mistakes to avoid and also how to solve them. Okay, so before I go on, if Jonathan has anything to address at this point before I start.
Okay, thank you, Weera. I would like to inform the audience that this list of 12 mistakes is not an exhaustive list, but these are the most common ones that we have seen and probably the most consequential mistakes that happens with your borangs. So always exercise your due diligence and be careful, and always to check through before taking a step in filing and service and whatsoever. But moving on, the way that we structured these 12 mistakes will be, it goes in sequential order. So we will address the mistakes dealing with Borang 1 and 2 first before moving on to the other Borangs 3, 4, and 5. So firstly, would be filling in the wrong details in Borang 1, 2, or 3, and also stating a different address other than the Bar Council website. I would group these together because it is a similar mistake, but it has slightly different implications. Weera, would you take us through these mistakes?
Yes, okay, so the very basic detail here is, of course, if you have, imagine you have your Borang 1 right in front of you right now. It's very self-explanatory. You would have to fill them in. But the next question is, how do I fill them in, and how do I, ensure that nothing goes wrong or the information that I put in is correct? Of course, sometimes you would laugh at the fact that how could you get your name wrong? But it happens, typographical errors can happen, and also you can imagine what can go wrong. Okay, so when mistakes are done to an originating process, okay, so originating process meaning in Borang 1, for example, or Borang 2 or Borang 3, then if there is any amendment that you would wish to make, or if there's any mistake that you need to make, then you will need to file an amendment application. Okay, why do you have to file an amendment application and not just simply refile them again? It's just the process. It's just how the rules of court 2012 works. Okay, so, and the other alternative is either you withdraw and refile. But the problem here lies, what happens if you only know about this mistake, like I said just now, 3 months down the road? Now, if you have started your pupillage 3 months down the road, that means withdraw and refile may no longer be an option, because you don't want to waste 3 months of your pupillage period. So you would have to file an amendment application. But what is the drawback of filing an amendment application? It is very troublesome, because you first have to file an amendment application with an affidavit in support. Okay, and your lawyer, and a lawyer in your firm, must attend the hearing on your behalf. You can't attend the hearing yourself because you do not have the locus in court to do so yet. Okay, so at this point of time, you can see how troublesome it is just to correct one wrong detail or wrong mistake that you have made in your Borang 1. Of course, some of the mistakes are minor. For example, if you made a mistake in your affidavit, then it is totally fine, because you can just simply file an affidavit, pembetulan or corrective affidavit. But if the mistake is done here, as you can see in the slides, in Borang 1 or Borang 2 or Borang 3, then that is a fatal mistake which would require attention. Okay, and then it leads to my second problem here in Borang 1. For example, one of the common mistakes while filling in the details would be stating a different address other than your master's address that is contained in the legal directory. Okay, we will go through on how to fill in the Borang 1 and the Borangs later on, but for the time being, I will just do a very short demo. Okay, so basically, I will share screen right now. Chrome tab. Okay, if you can see on the screen right now, when you file your Borang 1, you would need to put your master's address and master's firm. Okay, why is this a problem? How can this be a problem? This can be a problem usually when your master has 2 branches at the same state or few branches. Let's take, for example, if you see here on the screen, imagine that I'm your master. I have an address at Kuala Lumpur. Okay, Jalan Dutamas. I also have another address in, for example, Puchong. I am physically present at Puchong. Okay, but the problem is in the Bar Council directory, my address is registered to the KL address. So to put things simple, you must follow whatever it is stated in the Bar Council legal directory. Okay, for example, let's take for example my ex firm here, if you don't mind. Okay, so imagine if Faye here is your master. Imagine, let's put it. Okay, so your master's address should follow this address. It should not be any other address than this. It may be tempting sometimes because like your master may be available in other branches, and then you put that address using that branch which you mentally thought your master is at. So don't. Just follow whatever is in the Malaysian Bar website. Okay, so and then I will close this part. Okay, Nathan, can you reshare back the screen just now? Okay, so the same goes. If you make that mistake again, then what would you have to do? If you realize it soon enough, then it's okay. You can just withdraw and refile it again. But in the event that you only know about this mistake 5 or 6 months down the road, okay, and that is a it's a very fatal mistake. Chances are you may have to file an amendment application, or sometimes you will be asked to withdraw it straight away. Okay, so that is a very fatal mistake to avoid. Moving on to point number 3 here.
I think there was something I would like to add.
Yes.
On the event of an application notice, I personally have an experience with the application notice. So to inform our viewers that at its quickest, an application notice, because you would need to file it, then as well as serving copies to the 3 bodies as well, and drafting an AO affidavit of service in order to file it as well. And then, as Weera previously mentioned, going for the hearing, which for now is an online hearing, which is attended by a lawyer on your behalf. This process could take up to at least 2 to 3 weeks, at least. So, especially for further pupils who are closer to long call, this could be quite disastrous, and it may add up to further delays, as well as existing short call delays which may happen due to incomplete documentation. But yeah, as we mentioned, it's a very fatal mistake to make. Yeah, and as Weera is going on, we'll address the next questions, basically on...
Yes, before I go on to that point, I would just, it's a very good question brought up by Jonathan just now. So if you have to file your amendment application with the MCO 3.0 in place, just to get a hearing date for your amendment application would usually take 1 or 2 months down the road. Okay, and why I say it is costly is because, first of all, you have to file your notice of application, which costs money. You have to file your affidavit in support, which costs money again. You have to go to the hearing, which definitely costs money. And finally, you have to draft an order, okay, which grants the amendment application. And finally, you have to file the amended Borang I or Borang II, or whichever Borang's originating process which you wanted to amend. So there are like at least 5 costs here that you have to bear whenever you file an amendment application. All in all, it would take around, probably, like Jonathan said, maybe 1 or 2 months just to correct this mistake. If you don't correct this mistake in Borang 1, then you would not be able to proceed and file your Borang 6, 7, and 8, or until Malaysian Bar or the State Bar acknowledges that you have cured those mistakes. Okay, and before I move on here, okay, just to be clear, there are only 3 bodies which will scrutinize your petition papers. Okay, that means if you have any mistakes in your chambering forms, there are only 3 bodies which will be bothered to comment on it. First of all is of course the Malaysian bar. Secondly would be your state bar, KL bar, Selangor bar, Kelantan bar, Perak bar and whatnot. And of course, the last one would be RKKK, although it is very rare for RKK. It's quite rare for RKKK to butt in. Okay. So, moving on to point number 3 here. Filing Borang 1 and 2 not on the same day or way after Borang 1 is dated. Okay, so this is a very, very common question that pupils ask me. Usually it's very simple. You fill in your Borang 1 on the same day, you affirm Borang 1, the affidavits, and also Borang 2, then you file it on the same day. But for some reason, some pupils tend to, I'm not so sure why they delay the filing of Borang 1, Borang 2, and the affidavits. Okay, just to take a step backwards, to initiate your chambering petition, there are 3 documents which you need to file: Borang 1, Borang 2, and your affidavit. And those, one of these 3 would contain your supporting documents mentioned in your Borang 1. Okay, so the problem arises if, for example, let's take a very simple example. You fill in your Borang 1 yesterday on 1st January. You started chambering in your firm at 1st January. You affirm it. You go to a commissioner of oath, say, hello, saya nak affirm document Borang 1 ni. He or she chops on your Borang 1, the stamp. So next, usually normal pupils would just e-file it on the same day. But for some reason, some pupils would take 1 week later to file it in RKKK court. So then the next issue arises is, when do you actually start pupillage? Do you start pupillage on the same day, on the day you are physically present at office, or when you file it at RKKK-KL on the week after, say for example 10 January instead of 1st January? Okay, so the position is usually you only start chambering when you file your Borang 1 to RKKK. It makes a lot of sense, very simple. So how to cure this problem is, try to file it on the same day if possible. If not, the next day or within not more than 1 or 2 days. File it as soon as possible. File it as soon as you affirm and date your Borang 1. Okay, very simple logic. Why is this a problem if it's not followed? It's because there would be individuals who, for example, for example, the individual dates his Borang 1 on September 2021, for example, but he files it on, for example, October 2021. Okay, so it's like within a month, he'll get short call. So the court will be wondering, wow, he just finished, he is nearing his end of chambering period. What is going on, or why did he not file his chambering petition much earlier on? Okay, and at the end of the day, RKKK will call you, or Malaysian bar will suspect something is wrong. Why is it so slow? Okay, and at the end of the day, they will be asked to refile and also withdraw your application, present application. You do not want that. Long story short, file it on the same day or file it within the next day or a day or 2 after it is dated, after it is affirmed. Okay, if not, your pupillage won't technically count until the same is filed into the EFS system, e-filing system, which we'll be dealing later on. Okay, so at this point, Jonathan, do you have any issues to bring up?
Yes, I think I've had some friends asking me whether is it all right for them to affirm it, let's say on Monday, and then to file it on Tuesday or Wednesday. I think this could be an issue sometimes because some firms like their pupils already to get busy very fast, like they need the urgent help. So that could be an issue. So I can understand, but the answer I give my friends would usually be the clock for your 9 months starts when it is approved into the RKKK e-filing system. Would you agree with that?
I wouldn't say it clocks in whenever it is approved, because usually even in rules of court or even in normal civil litigation matters, it is deemed to be filed on the day that you file it. Okay, it doesn't matter when it is approved, it matters when you file it. Okay, it can a document can be sealed 3 days later or whatnot, but it will still be sealed as the date you file the document. Okay. So chambering starts on the day you e-file the document and make payment, of course, of the same.
Once they have the e-filing system has received the documents, it doesn't
Yes.
matter on sealing it. Yeah.
Yes, correct. Okay.
Okay.
So if we move on to the fourth problem here, not filing your Borang I to RKKKL but to your state court. Okay, so this problem is very basic. Okay, because it doesn't matter where you are at in Malaysia. If you are in Kelantan, you are in Perak, or you are in, as long as you are not in Sabah and Sarawak, of course, okay? If you are in Penang or wherever in Malaysia, you must file your petition, everything in Rayuan Kuasa Khas KL. Okay? Everyone files it there. A very common mistake that pupils do is they file it, for example, if she or she may be a pupil in Penang, they go and file the same thing to Penang High Court. Gladly file it. At the end of the day, the Penang High Court will call you. Why do you file it here? We don't accept pupils. We don't process pupillage matters here. Please withdraw or we will kick it out. Okay, so very simple. Every Borang I, no matter where you are in West Malaysia, must file it in RKKK KL. Same goes when you are filing your long call papers after this. There's no cure for this. If you do the mistake, your money will be burned. No choice. Okay, it's a very common mistake, but yes. Okay. At this point,
I recently had a friend who recently filed her pupillage papers in Penang High Court. So I think she had to withdraw and refile it in RKKKL. So yeah, it's a very common thing. But I think I can say this is especially important for those outside the Klang Valley. Those within the Klang Valley, our local High Court is Butang High Court, so it's fine.
Yes, correct.
Yep. Next point.
Okay, Nathan, can you just go on to the next point, to the next slide? Okay, so I've been talking about just now that only 5 months down the road or 3 months down the road only you know your problem. Okay, this problem arises when pupils serve their documents late to the Malaysian bar or to the state bar. Okay, so pupils must always remember these two bodies are the bodies which are going to scrutinize your papers. Okay, if there's a mistake, they will be the ones pointing out your mistake. So if you serve these documents late to them, chances are you would know about your mistake late as well. By the time you receive the bad news from them, it's either too late or the damage would have been done. Okay. Okay, there is this school of thought which I really don't like. Okay, which is oh, you can file your Borang I and Borang II. Okay, after you file, you just keep quiet first. After 1 week or 1 month later, you file Borang III, Borang IV, and Borang V, which is the short call papers. Okay, for short call meaning that you get the audience in court, you get the power or the locus to appear in court. Okay, so some pupils say that, oh, you can serve your Borang I, your Borang II, and then the sealed Borang III, IV, and V one shot, instead of what I would do or what I would suggest pupils to do, which is after you file your Borang I, immediately serve it to these 3 bodies. Okay, so what the mistake happens is there's so many recommendations online which states that, oh, you can file your Borang I and II, and then you wait for Borang 3, 4, and 5 to be filed as well. Then you serve these 5 documents to the Malaysian bar and state bar. But by the time they do that, 1 month or 2 months or 3 months even would have gone by so fast. And then you realize Malaysian bar will call you, hello, you have made a mistake in your Borang 1. Please refile it again. You have filed it in the wrong court, or your master's name is wrong. Okay, so now you are stuck. You know, you have a slower time to react. Of course, some of the problems are not so fatal. You can just file an affidavit pembetulan. But why do you want to know about the problems late? So, in short, do as what I suggest. Once you file your Borang 1 and 2, serve them immediately to the State Bar and the Malaysian Bar and AGC. And then, after you have not heard anything from them, file your Borang 3, 4, and 5 and repeat the process. Serve your Borang 3, 4, and 5 again to the Malaysian Bar, State Bar, and AGC. That is the proper procedure to go to and to go about. Okay, so far anything, any questions from the viewers? If there is, please forward it to us in the comment section. Yeah. Okay, Jonathan, is there anything else?
Okay, I think we will address one of the questions from our viewers. Was that from Wonderstruck? I recently filed my Borang 1 and 2 with exhibits in color during service. Can I serve black and white, or must the exhibits be served in color as well?
Okay, so it's a very interesting question, but the answer is it's okay to serve it in black and white. Okay, because in practice also, we sometimes don't serve opponents the original copy as well. We just serve a copy of the document, so it's totally fine. Of course, if the Malaysian bar prompts you to serve them the colored copy, which I have never heard yet so far in my 4 years of practice, then you do it. Okay.
Another question would be, what is the estimate cost to file these 2 Borang? If I'm not wrong, it will be 100. The first, I think so, is 3 documents: Borang 1, Borang 2, and your affidavit will be 192. Is that correct, Weera?
Yes, you are totally right, Jonathan. And in fact, we will be demoing later in a video on how to go about the process. So don't worry about that. But you are right, 160 ringgit for Borang 1, 16 ringgit for affidavit, 16 ringgit for Borang 2, which brings you a total to 192 ringgit. Okay.
Yes, and we are asked to repeat the correct procedure for point number 5, the order in which to file and serve up to short call.
You mean for Borang 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, is it number 5?
Yeah.
Okay, the order doesn't matter. I mean, the order meaning that whether you serve to the Malaysian bar first or the state bar or the AG first, it doesn't matter. Yeah, okay, the order is you file your Borang 1, Borang 2, and also the affidavit to the EFS system. After 1 or 2 days, you serve this Borang 1 and 2, you fill in the petition number, yeah? Remember to fill in the petition number. Then you serve it to the Malaysian bar on the same day or the next day or within the same week. After the Malaysian bar or the state bar, acknowledges receipt of your documents and does not comment on any mistakes to be done, usually within 1 month, we give it 1 month for them to report, then you file your Borang 3, 4, and 5 to the EFS system. You extract the Borang 3, the sealed copy of Borang 3, and then you serve it to the Malaysian bar and state bar again. Okay, the procedure of short call here, we won't go through to in depth, but if pupils read through the article in BrainyLaw, then it would make much more sense. It is okay for newcomers to not understand what I'm saying right now because probably they haven't probably even seen the Borangs yet for the time being. Okay, but do keep this at the back of your mind. Very simple. Borang 1, Borang 2, file, serve, wait 1 month, file Borang 3, Borang 4, Borang 5 to the EFS, extract documents, serve it to the 3 bodies. Simple.
And yes, I would like to point out that this order and procedure for the timeline is infinitely more important for those in litigation firms and departments, those in corporate and conveyancing departments or firms. You can file and serve it at any time as long as way before your short call, just as long as it's done.
Okay, just to add from where Jonathan left, yeah. Okay, so I wouldn't say that it would differ from conveyancing, or the period would differ from conveyancing to litigation. I would probably adjust the statement to say that Borang 3, 4, and 5 is not as important or not compulsory to be filed by conveyancing pupils or pupils who do not intend to go to court. Okay, so Borang 3, 4, and 5, which is in relation to short call, is only filed if you want to go to court, which most pupils usually do anyway. Okay.
Okay, moving on, we would be addressing the 32 copies of Borang II to the RKK. Before I pass it to Weera, I would preface this by saying, even though this is in relation to Borang II, which is an early document, part of the originating procedure, but this is in relation to your long call. But yeah, Weera?
Okay, one of the things that pupils need to understand is, once there's one part of your Borang 2, you need to make 32 copies. Basically, you need to make 32 copies of Borang 2, and you have to staple them 2 sets of 16s. Okay, 16 times 2, there'll be 16 sets. One set, there'll be 2 Borang 2s. Why? Okay, it's very simple. It's because this Borang 2 is a notice which will be placed at the 16 High Courts of Malaysia. Okay, why is this important? It is very important because for your long call later on, you will need a document called Sijil Penampalan. Sijil Penampalan is essentially a certificate verifying that the notice had been pasted at the 16 High Courts of Malaysia. Okay, so how can you go wrong? It's very simple. If you serve your Borang 2 late, or you take your own sweet time to serve your Borang 2, then the runners of the court will take their own sweet time as well. Or in other words, I would say that they wouldn't have enough time to pace it at the 16 High Courts, meaning the slower they pace, the slower it is for you to get your Sijil Penampalan. Without your Sijil Penampalan, you cannot file your Borang 6, 7, and 8. Meaning you cannot proceed to file your long call papers. You won't get called. Your long call will be delayed just because of this very rookie mistake. So for KL Selangor pupils, make an appointment in RKKK, serve the Borang 32 copies to RKKK as soon as possible. Fill in the red book. There's a log book. The red book is usually the log book where pupils would have to fill in. Okay, so pupils outside of Klang Valley, Kelantan, Perak, Penang, Kedah, Terengganu, Perlis, wherever you are, you can courier them. Or if I were you, I would ask someone that I trust here in KL to serve these 32 copies for you within the same week when you filed your Borang 1 and 2. I repeat, you must file when you file your Borang 2 on the same week, try to serve these 32 copies to RKKKL as soon as possible. I cannot stress this point. I cannot stress how important this is, because just imagine if you serve your 32 copies of Borang 2 after 7 months of your pupillage, you have 2 more months to finish your pupillage. Okay, and the runners won't serve all these documents. The runners of court won't paste these documents in the 16 High Courts within 1 month. They will take 3 or 4 or even 6 months with MCO in place. Very simple. The effect, no choice. Too bad. Wait 3 months for nothing. Wait 6 months for nothing. Avoid this mistake at all costs. Okay.
Okay, we have another question, but we will address the question regarding affidavit of service after question 8. But yeah, moving on. On question 7, naming yourself instead of your master in Borang III, entitlement and wrong court. So Weera, you have anything to say on this?
Okay, I'll keep this one very short because it's very simple. So it doesn't matter where you are in Malaysia. If you want to get short call, you file your Borang 3, 4, and 5. Why do you want to get short call? Is so that you get an audience you have the locus to appear in court. You have the power to appear in court. Okay, so it doesn't matter whether you want or not. If you file it, you file it. If you don't want to file it, it's okay. It's just that you cannot appear in court. Okay, so usually Borang 3 is the petitioner is not you. The petitioner is under your master's name. Okay, because only your master has the power to ask or to move the court to allow you or to vest you with the power of to appear in court. Okay, some pupils they name it as per their name. Okay, and they basically don't follow the samples that are available online. So this is one of the mistakes lah, the common mistake. They file it under their own name. Too bad, it's gonna get rejected because it is procedurally wrong. Okay, of course you can file your amendment application, but no one files an amendment application for Borang 3 because it is a waste of time. It is much better to withdraw and refile. Of course, as I said just now, if you do this, cost will be wasted, time will be wasted. Your master won't be happy with you. Okay, to avoid this problem, always follow the sample I believe it's in my BrainyLaw website. It's also I believe it is drafted by klbar or the state bar before. So pupils must keep that in mind. Okay, so just before we go on any further, for Borang 3 to get short call in Klang Valley, the format would be under I believe it is summons in chambers, saman dalam kamar. You file it under the same suit as your Borang 1. But for pupils out of Klang Valley, they would have to file a document called Saman Pemula. Okay, Borang 3, it's Borang 3, 4, and 5, but it is filed as an originating process, OS, so Saman Pemula, originating summons, in regard to allowing you to appear in court. Your master must attend the hearing. For KL pupils, you don't have to attend the hearing. You just wait for your short call results at the RKK KL. How do you get your results? You can go there or you can join the Telegram group. Okay, which shares the short call results usually. And I believe number 8 is very simple, citing wrong section in entitlement of AOS. For your long call or for your petition, chambering petition to get called to the bar, it is under section 10 and section 15. Okay, for your short call, it will be, I believe, under section 36A or section 36B. Okay, so when you are drafting an affidavit of service, you must follow the correct entitlement. You must follow. If it's an AOS, affidavit of service for Borang 1, you follow exactly the entitlement of Borang 1. Okay, for Borang 3, 4, and 5, you must follow the entitlement of Borang 3, 4, and 5. This is probably a fatal mistake, because if you do wrong, if you make a mistake here, your short call will be delayed. That's the worst thing that will happen to you. Okay, so that I believe that answers the question. But going on to the comment just now, what is the comment, Jonathan?
Okay, the comment is actually one question I'm able to address would be, can we confirm that the copies of Borang II, the Borang II need not be stapled together?
Okay,
if it's regarding the 32 copies, it needs to be stapled together, but the rest for the exhibits on your Borang 1 and 2 filing, that one need not be stapled together. You can just scan it and you'll be in one document. It's fine.
Okay, Dashwin here, I think the question, as you mentioned, is from Dashwinra. A very good question. Are there any supporting documents that we must file together? Yes. Okay. Of course, when you file your affidavit of service, you attach the things that you actually serve to them. as proof. Secondly, you must attach the proof of service. Proof of service is very simple. You can attach the acknowledgement email, which says that thank you, we acknowledge receipt of your email, we acknowledge receipt of your documents. Or sometimes, of course, if you serve with a cover letter, there'll be a chopped receipt. That is good as well. Okay, so to answer Dashwin's questions, very simple. First, the exhibits the supporting documents is whatever that you serve to them, a copy of it, and also the acknowledgement documents, meaning whatever documents which acknowledges service of the of the AOS. So it goes also to it is true that in order to file the affidavit of service, we must first receive the AR registered card from Malaysian Bar and attach a photocopy. Technically speaking, yes. Okay, but I will not recommend pupils to use AR registered post to serve documents because it is very, very slow to get the card. Please use a courier, get FedEx or get DHL or whatever, because your proof of service can just be printed out by doing a tracking service online. It is much more efficient that way. Please use courier. Please don't use AR registered post to serve your documents because it's very slow. Okay.
I would like to add to this for pupils under klbar. For pupils under klbar, the easiest thing, just take a screen capture of the email receipt to the person that you sent to the klbar and Malaysian Bar. You can just take a screenshot of that and you can just attach it as an image onto the AOS, and then that is sufficient. Okay, moving on. Then Liang.
Okay, so we have reached the long call section of mistakes. Okay, so the previous part is in relation to the mistakes that you would be doing. I would say probably five months and before. So this is a mistake that you would be doing probably 6 months and beyond after your pupillage. Okay, so usually for number 9, very self-explanatory. You must complete your ethics on time. You must do your legal aid on time. You must request for your BM exemption cert on time. It's not fatal in the sense that the worst problem that can happen to you is your long call will be delayed. That's about it. Okay, the usual timeline to get your ethics done is usually 1 or 2 months before you finish your pupillage. Your legal aid usually must also be done 1 or 2 months before your pupillage end. It is not fatal. You can do it even after your pupillage. It doesn't matter. But if you are slow, your long call will be delayed as well. Simple. Okay, for your BM exemption cert, also similar. Pupils have been complaining to me, Weera, I've been waiting for 1 or 2 months for my BM exemption cert. Without my BM exemption cert, I cannot file my long call papers. Yes, you are right. So how can this problem be cured? It is very simple. Okay, you must apply for this BM exemption cert as soon as possible. You can apply it even before you start pupillage. Okay, you go to LPQB website, you apply for a BM exemption cert as soon as possible. Pay 150, keep it in advance. Okay, please remember this. Okay, the number 10. Number 10 is very simple. Not being proactive. Do not make early arrangements. Early arrangements here is very special because it's actually in relation to the MCO 3.0 which we are facing right now. Okay, to go to RKKK, you need to make an appointment. Okay, to go to RKKK for whatever reason, without an appointment, they won't entertain you nowadays. So if you don't make an early arrangement, you cannot get a lot of things done. Okay, for your short call, your long call, your petition, you cannot deposit your original documents early for long call and so on. So make early arrangement. Okay. For point number 11, the second last point here is for pupils out of KL, Selangor, they don't file their Borang 6, 7, 8 at RKKK KL. Okay, so for for pupils in KL and Selangor, usually they will know that they have to file it in RKKK KL. But for pupils out of KL and Selangor, they might have forgotten. Like, oh, yeah lah, I filed my short call hearing at the Penang High Court. Now I file my long call also at Penang High Court. That is a mistake. You have to remember, long call must always go back to RKKK KL. If you do this mistake, no cure, you have to withdraw and refile it again to the right court. You have to withdraw the one at Penang High Court, and you have to file the Borang 6, 7, and 8 into the KLI court as you should. Okay, money burn if you do the mistake. And then, of course, if you...
I think there is a question similar to this regarding for out-of-state pupils. There's Weera asked as well regarding Borang 6, 7, and 8 onwards, because of the two different suits for 1 and 2 as well as 3, 4, 5. As Weera asked whether should she file her 6, 7, and 8 under 1 and 2 or 3, 4, 5.
Yes, it's a very, very good question by Daswinra here. Okay, and I've just literally answered the question, but I will repeat it again because it is very important. Okay, so Daswinra, you file your Borang 6, 7, and 8 onwards on the same suit which you file your Borang 1 and Borang 2. Okay, not your Borang 3, 4, and 5. So that is what you need to remember. Of course, if you want to get called in Penang High Court, very simple. The procedure is in the long call guide in BrainyLaw. You can always refer to that. But long story short, you have to file a transfer form. Okay, which will as soon as possible, you have to file your transfer form so that you can get called at the Penang High Court if you wish to, or wherever court in Malaysia which you would want to get called to. Okay, but bearing in mind that nowadays online hearings are always done, so it doesn't really matter where you are getting called at, okay, because there's no physical hearing. Okay, so for last fatal mistake here, not ensuring that letter of no objection is received. Okay, it's very simple. So basically for short call, you will get your letter of no objection. You need to file your letter of no objection before you are going to being able to get short call. If not, your short call will be rejected. For long call as well, the same. Okay, you need to call the Malaysian bar to say, I have served my Borang 6, 7, and 8. Okay, long time ago, I've served your Borang 1, Borang 2, Borang 3, all to State Bar and Malaysian Bar. I am nearing my completion of pupillage. Okay, I have not done anything wrong, so please provide letter of no objection to RKKKKL. Usually, if they don't do this, it's fine because it's automatically done. But the mistake is, if something is wrong, they don't detect it early, long call will be delayed. Simple. Okay.
I think there is one minor mistake, but this is because it doesn't fit under one specific category. It will be the CTC of documents, because when we file our Borang 1 and 2, we have to include our various certificates and documents to prove that you're a qualified person under the LPA. I would say that for CTC of documents, you would need to get a qualified person to CTC, usually another lawyer in the firm, but do not get your master to CTC. That would also cause problems and you need to amend it.
Yes, you're correct. So when you file your Borang 1 and Borang 2, which we will go through now later on, is the supporting documents such as your LLB cert, your CLP cert, your IC, your birth cert, and whatnot must be certified true copy, and that can only be done by any lawyers in your firm other than your master. It cannot be done by a commissioner of oath. It must be done by someone who can certify your document, but not your master. Okay, you can ask your other partner, but you can ask your senior, you can ask me, you can ask anyone else, but not your master. Very basic. Okay.
Okay. Moving on, we'll move to the brief run through of the documents on how to fill them. So Weera, I think if you mind sharing your screen.
Okay, so I will go on to share a screen right now. Yeah. Okay. So we will have a very quick demo on how to fill in the Borangs correctly. We are in the third step of the webinar right now. Just allow me to share the screen right now. Yeah, share screen. Chrome tab. Copy. I believe this is the one. Okay, if you see the screen right now in front of you, these are the famous or infamous borang which you have encountered right now. How do you file it in? Always remember to use black ink. Okay, even if you use blue ink, it is okay, but professionally speaking, legal documents must always be in black. You can write this in what they call it using pen, or you can type it out as well. You can use a typewriter and also so on and so forth. Okay, very simple. When you first file your borang 1, this part is to be left empty. Okay, the part where petition untuk penerimaan masuk, it must be left empty. Here, very simple. You put your name as per your IC, and you then put your current residential address. Okay, sounds very simple, but pupils need to know this. When you file your borang 1, you must follow your current residential address, not your IC address. Okay, because very simple. Imagine that you are a pupil who comes from Penang. You are chambering in KL. Okay, you do not write your address in Penang. You put your whatever address you are staying at in KL. It's okay if you don't put it in KL. You can put it in KL, Selangor, or Negeri Sembilan, which is nearby to KL. Why? Because the logic is, if you put your address in Penang, does it mean that you are always going back and fro from Penang to KL to do your pupillage? It doesn't make sense. Okay, so if you do this mistake of, for example, you chamber in KL, okay, but what they call it, you put a Penang address, Malaysian bar will call you up, say that please change this address to wherever you are staying at in KL. Okay, because it doesn't make sense for you to travel from Penang to KL every day to do pupillage. There might be, but I highly doubt there is such situation. Okay, but anyway, put your current residential address, not your IC address, unless your current residential address and IC address is the same. Okay, very simple this one. Put your name, also put your IC number. Always remember, double check whatever you are filling in. So on how to file your, what they call it, on what to say your qualifications are, there are a lot of example here. If, for example, you graduate from UKM, Ijazah Sarjana Muda Kepujian, University Kuala Lumpur, and whatnot. CLP, you put your LLB, University of London, and then you put your CLP here, Sijil Amalan Guaman, all in Malay. Unless, of course, if you are doing BPTC, Barrister at Law, Middle Temple, Lincoln's Inn, and all the four whatever inns that you come from. Okay, and of course your here, as I mentioned just now, I believe the fatal mistake number 3, your master's name dari Tetuan, for example Weera and Partners, follow your firm's or your master's address. Follow your master's address as per the Malaysian Bar Legal Directory. It doesn't matter if your master is not at the address, you must follow whatever address that is stated in the legal directory. Okay, and this is your infamous date of filing of borang 1 and 2. Okay, always put this on the same day as you file your borang 1 and 2, preferably. Okay, and I do not know why some pupils forgot to sign this part. Please sign this part. If you don't, then it's going to be a mistake. You have to refile it again. You don't want to file an amendment application because you don't want to go through all the stress yet again and the costs and so on and so forth. Okay, just so to backtrack, all the sample of how to file this is not prepared by me. I believe it is prepared by the Malaysian Bar or the State Bar, so it can also be downloaded by just googling, or you can go to BrainyLaw's article, download it. Okay, the sample is here, follow it correctly and do it. Okay, of course, then you have this affidavit. You put your name, put your IC, affirm it before the Commissioner of Oath. Do not forget to sign your affidavit, but usually it's not a problem because your Commissioner of Oath will remind you to sign it before he or she will affirm. Self-explanatory. Okay. Borang II, also similar. I will not repeat it again. But here I would like to mention that this is the part whereby I say 32 copies of Borang II stapled together to be handed to the RKKK registry. Okay. Of course, here the next question is, where do you put in your supporting documents such as your birth cert, your IC, and so on? Okay, so too far as if you read my article, it is already stated there what are the what they call it, documents, supporting documents which you need to file. Okay, the documents are your IC, your birth cert, your what they call it, your master's profile, and also your LLB and CLP cert. Okay, so you can attach, you can scan those supporting documents with your Borang I, or you can scan them together with your Borang II. It doesn't matter as long as it is scanned, your supporting documents is scanned with either one of these documents, or even sometimes you want to scan it with your affidavit is okay as well. But I would recommend to file it together with B1 or B2. Okay, and for Borang III at this point of time, it is also self-explanatory. Okay.
Yes, actually, I've got one question from my friends usually. I think one question would be that for my friends that have not been called to the UK bar, but they get what we call an INS release letter confirming that we have passed the BPTC. The very first question they would ask me is, can they start their pupillage? And I would answer them as usually the answer I got from Malaysian bar would be, you can start your pupillage, you can file up to 1, 2, then 3, 4, 5, but you cannot finish your pupillage by filing 6, 7, and 8. I would assume it was the same with CLP with a confirmation from the LPQB, but that is the answer I got. Anything to add to this, Weera?
You are totally correct, Jonathan, because there has been delay for pupils, especially for BPTC students and also CLP, to get their certificate of completion, meaning that to verify that they have indeed passed their BPTC and CLP exams, for example. So usually to make do with this, the Malaysian bar has issued a circular stating that for filing of Borang I and Borang II, you can file your instead of filing your certificate, you can file a confirmation letter which states that you have passed your BPTC and or CLP. Okay, but of course the assumption is 7 months down the road or 8 months down the road, before you file your long call papers, you would have gotten your CLP or BPTC original certificates, which we will then need to file for the long call.
Okay, let's move on to Borang 3, 4, and 5 onwards.
Yes, okay, so bear with us. I would predict that we need another 10 to 15 minutes to complete and to wrap up everything. Okay, so for Borang 3 here, as you can see, name of your master. Okay, pemohon must be your master. Okay, file it under the same suit for KL and Klang Valley pupils. But if you are a pupil at what they call it, other states other than Klang Valley, you would file something called Saman Pemula. Basically, it's the same thing, but this title will be changed to Saman Pemula. And then this one, the suit number, leave it empty. I repeat, suit number, leave it empty because you are doing another originating process. You're filing it to the Penang High Court, okay, for example. Only for students or pupils out of Klang Valley. Other than that, Borang 4 and Borang 5, it is self-explanatory. So I wouldn't go too deep into it. Okay, but before I end this part of filling in the Borangs, I want to remind pupils that you have filed in all these documents and whatnot, the information. The last thing that you need to do after you filed it to the e-filing system, make payment, is you have to fill in this petition, this part here, your suit number. Always remember to file in your suit number here before you serve the documents to Malaysian Bar, State Bar, and AGC. It doesn't matter if you want to put the WA code or not, as long as you put, at least you put this suit number here. Okay? Or of course, you have to remember to do it as well on Borang II. On how to get the suit number, we will go through that very quickly later on.
Yes, there is one other thing that I would like to add, especially in relation to Borang 4 in particular, because if I'm not mistaken, Borang 4 is basically an affidavit from your master. So in that case, as Weera mentioned, you would usually sign the affidavit itself in front of the Commissioner of Oaths, but for Borang 4, you get your master to sign it before bringing it to the Commissioner of Oaths.
Yes, basically Borang 4 is to be affirmed by your master, is an affidavit in support. So that Borang must be signed by your master. Okay, it must be, usually you must bring your master to the Commissioner of Oath, in front of the Commissioner of Oath, swear the document, affirm the document. Simple. Yes. I mean, if pupils must read the contents of the Borang, and then everything makes a lot of sense. Mistakes happen when they don't even read the same. They just fill it in. Then we can't help them if that's the case. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Let's move on to a quick demo of how our e-filing system works.
Okay, so we'll do a very quick demo on how to use the e-filing system. Okay, I'll just share screen again. You would have to Google. Okay, of course you Google, you will reach to this page of here. You Google to efskehakiman.efs.web. Of course, you log in using your firm's account. You will reach this what they call it page here. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry, profile saya. Okay, sorry, I'll just delete this one. I will share screen again. Okay, so you will be seeing this very basic screen. Of course, when you file your new borangs, you will file it under Pemfilan Baharu. Okay, click Pemfilan Baharu. This one is very simple. Lokasi mahkamah, here you will click Mahkamah Tinggi Kuala Lumpur.
I think it's frozen. Like we haven't seen a change to the Pemfilan Baharu page.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Give me a second, yeah. Okay, can you see it now? Do you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, it's very simple. Lokasi mahkamah, you click Mahkamah Tinggi. Of course, Kuala Lumpur, as I stated just now. It must be Kuala Lumpur. It must be Mahkamah Tinggi. Of course, you must choose Rayuan Kuasa-Kuasa Khas. Of course, you must choose, and then petition. You choose number 18, and you choose this one. Okay, press tambah. And then, of course, you click tambah pihak. After you click the part tambah pihak, is very self-explanatory. You put in your details, your IC number, and so on and so forth. Okay, I won't be doing it right now because it's rather self-explanatory. After that, you will be prompted to your information will be right here at this part, and also the law firm that you are chambering at. Okay, finally, you just go to muat naik document. Okay, muat naik document. You upload your Borang 1. You upload your Borang 1. You then muat naik document again, Borang affidavit, and then you upload your Borang 2. It doesn't really matter if you upload affidavit first or Borang 2, but usually for safety, file your Borang 1 first as enclosure number 1. File your Borang 1, upload your Borang 1, then you upload your affidavit or Borang 2, which of course contains your supporting documents. Okay, so I will stop the screen right now because it's very simple. After you have made payment, then of course the status will be I'll be demoing the payment part. Yeah, I'm going to share screen here in the Chrome tab. You have this So I believe what leads you to this webinar, and also this will be one of the, what they call it, one of your articles that you would have to refer to time and time again lah. Okay, I will zoom in here a bit. So as you can see here, the payment part, please make sure that you pay 192 ringgit. Okay, you will then get your case number here. This is my case number back then, 4 years, I mean 3 years, about 4 years, nearly 4 years back. WA-18-22-01-2018. Can you see it, Jonathan?
I would have to, I think to zoom in out more, yeah.
Yeah, okay, let's zoom in slightly more, yeah. Okay, yeah, can't really zoom in anymore, but okay, but I think pupils can always
Yeah.
go through this stuff at the, what do you call it, at the article. So as you can see here, always make sure that you file, you make sure that you pay 192 ringgit. If you don't pay 192 ringgit, your filing will be invalid. Something is seriously wrong. RKKK will call you and say that, hello, please refile it again. Please withdraw and refile. You do not want to face this problem, okay? Make sure pay 192 ringgit. Okay, so that is that actually. Of course, when you have gotten your, what they call it, your case number as I showed just now, remember to fill it in your Borang I and Borang II entitlement just now. After that, after you have e-filed the Borang I and II, wait until it is approved, diluluskan. As you can see here just now, there's a part which says diluluskan. After it is diluluskan, then you can proceed to serve the documents. Diluluskan does not mean everything you put in into your Borang I and Borang II is correct. It simply means the court has accepted the filing of your document. Remember, the main scrutinizer of your documents are the Malaysian Bar and the State Bar. Okay. So at this point of time, I think that is it, guys. Is there anything?
I would like to add on regarding the payment process. The payment process will be using the FPX payment. Basically think of it as your online Shopee payment and everything with the code there, which you have TAC. I would like to add that during the process that's listed on the BrainyLaw article, if the payment doesn't go through, if there's usually like an error and something like that, then you will be prevented from paying with the same case again. So you would have to effectively restart the process of filing that particular set of documents and then paying on that. And do not worry about the incomplete payment process for that one, because it would just disappear within a few days.
Yes, Jonathan is entirely correct. Your documents are not deemed to be filed until you make payment. Make sure you make payment. Make sure your account is deducted, some money from your bank account. If it is, that means it is filed. So don't worry, okay? And if there's any unpaid documents, don't worry, it will go. I mean, it will go off automatically, as Jonathan mentioned as well, after a few days.
Yes, and I guess the only other thing that I would like to add as well would be, as Weera has previously mentioned, the main scrutinizers would be yourself, or let's say if you get a senior to check for you. And then when you serve it, the bodies will be the Malaysian Bar and your State Bar. You would have to serve a copy of the documents to AGC, but AGC doesn't really check through your documents. They just acknowledge receipt, but you have to include an acknowledgement of receipt from AGC.
Yes.
In all,
correct.
All your AOS.
Correct. I would definitely say that Jonathan is correct. Your best friend, your ally, your enemy would be the Malaysian Bar or the State Bar. Of course, they make sure your papers are in order. If you don't follow what they order you to do, then you are basically digging a hole for yourself. Okay, so please respect the Malaysian Bar, respect the instructions coming from them, because they are the main scrutinizer of your pupillage papers as well. It goes to the same for the state bar as well. Okay, and of course, this topic wouldn't, this webinar does not handle issues such as change of masters, procedures, and whatnot. But you can always find the guide and what do you call it, help by reading those articles which have already been posted in BrainyLaw for years and been followed by pupils for such a long time. Okay. So
yes, I would say the same, and then as I would say personally, even in my firm or when I was doing pupillage, we would consult the BrainyLaw articles as our guide and Bible for our pupillage forms. But to echo Weera, this would be just a very preliminary introduction on how to start and the very first few things that you need to do as part of the pupillage process. But as we can see on your screen available now, these are the various places to get support and help regarding to not only the pupillage process, but also with other matters such as getting your BM exemption cert, legal aid, also in regards to your ethics course, your CPD points, because certain states have certain different rules regarding what can be counted as CPD points, and also various other things like transfer of master, as Weera mentioned. Feel free to get in touch with any of us, either the people at BrainyLaw or even myself, because we would be happy to help with any questions or inquiries on the pupillage process on how to solve the various issues that crop up.
yes, correct. So Jonathan has essentially stated everything that I need. I had in mind. So I totally definitely agree with Jonathan. Of course, the main scrutinizer is Malaysian Bar and State Bar. You know, I mean, they are the decision makers with the court. So at the end of the day, they are the ones that they are the main bodies which you really need to get help from: the State Bar Committee, the Malaysian Bar, and the courts. We as BrainyLaws, we are just lawyers who wanted to help juniors not to face the same problem. Okay, the reason why we are doing this webinar is also because there has been a lot of fatal mistakes being done by pupils, and by the time sometimes they get to me, they say, Weera, how do I settle this problem? Sometimes it feels very bad for me to say that, too bad, I can't help you, because the only cure is to refile or to withdraw your petition and restart all over again. I hate telling pupils that, but sometimes that is the thing that happens. You know, that's life. But hopefully with this webinar, at least pupils will not do the same mistakes anymore, or maybe less, like I've stated in the beginning of the video. Of course, for the full guide, please read the article in full, the written article, which is available in BrainyLaw's website. There's no substitute for that. Of course, don't just read my article. You can always cross-check with other articles. If you get confusion, ask us directly before you do something. Okay, of course, I won't reply as soon as possible. You can always ask Poon, you can always ask anyone. It doesn't have to be us. You can ask anyone, literally. Okay, so
Yes, we have a question. And for everybody in the stream right now, if you have any further questions like this, would be the time to raise them and we will address them immediately. The question would be, if I messed up my AOS for Borang III because exhibit tidak lengkap, I only need to refile the AOS with complete exhibit only, right, and not the whole Borang 3, 4, 5 again.
yes, you are correct. FYOD, if there's the problem for short call is the AOS exhibit tidak lengkap, the only thing you have to do is what they call it, how to say, I'm sorry, you have to just to file another AOS with the complete exhibits, and then you wait for another 2 weeks for the next short call results. Okay, usually short call results will be delivered on every Wednesday, 2 weeks later. Of course, that only applies for KL pupils and Selangor pupils. Okay, for it's, to be honest, for pupils out of Klang Valley, the process is very simple, because usually during the hearing we can just verbally say, I've served this, I filed EOS, nobody usually bothers to check the AOS, so it's fine. But if for KL, for some reason, this is the bad thing for KL. RKKK will spot check all your AOS. So to answer the question very short, you only have to refile the correct AOS with the complete exhibits, wait for another 2 weeks for the next result and see whether everything is done correctly or not.
Yes, Wonderstruck has asked whether would it be advisable to file my Borang 3, 4, and 5 the next day after service of Borang 1 and 2, or safer to wait a few days? Papers were deemed diluluskan on EFS, but I'm concerned if there may be any issues upon service. Weera has previously addressed this, so I would summarize, and if I missed out anything, Weera would follow up. But effectively, no, it would not be advisable to do that. It will be, as Weera previously mentioned, the best course of action would be filing your Borang 1 and 2, then serving Borang 1 and 2, waiting maybe a week, maybe a month at most, then filing 3, 4, and 5, then serving 3, 4, and 5. Of course, the BrainyLaw guide does state that filing 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5, then serving 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5 is possible, but it is an option, but not the recommended course of action.
Yes, correct. Jonathan is 100% correct. The only thing I would add is, why do you need to wait 1 month after you have served your Borang 1, only you file your Borang 3, 4, and 5? Okay, I repeat, very important. Why do you file your Borang 3, 4, and 5 1 month or 2 months later after you serve your Borang 1 and Borang 2? It's because it allows time for Malaysian bar and the state bar to revert back to you on any mistakes. Okay, if you don't hear from them after that, it means that you have not done any mistakes. You do you. Proceed with Borang 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so the key here is to serving your documents to the scrutinizer early for them to help you check your Borangs in advance. If you don't do that, if you follow the very weird, I would say peculiar method of waiting Borang 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, then you serve to Malaysian bar, by the time you realize that there's a mistake, it's going to be too late. I don't really like this method at all because it's very risky. Of course, you can save some money, but let's be realistic. You wanted to save 16 ringgit or few delivery fees, but in return, if you do a mistake, touch wood, if you do a mistake, then there'll be more costs to be incurred. Okay.
Yes, I fully agree with Weera on that point, and I would actually like to add that again, there is no rush. Usually, the rough estimate of your short call is usually within your second to third month that you can clear your short call and be given your locus to appear in court. So. And I don't think there are many firms that expect a first to second month pupil to appear in CM and case management or pre-trial hearings. I am quite doubtful that is the case, but of course, I think if you explain this to your master or your seniors, I'm quite sure they will understand that it is better to be safe with your pupillage forms rather than costing the firm money. And Weera, I think we forgot to mention, did we show them on how to get the receipts to download?
The receipts to download. Okay. We did not show the process to them, but it's very simple. I believe the guide is in the main article. Okay. There's an option. You just click your the from where you found your. Okay. Let me just do a quick demo. Is it possible? Based on the filing, what do you call it? Based on the article, because there's some private information in my own document, so I won't really do that unless whatever it is stated there is protected. Okay, when you filed it just now, it was protected. Okay, so share screen. If you see now in my screen, these are usually the documents the articles you see. on how to get the receipt, I mean, it's not really important to get receipt. It won't affect your long call or short call. It's just that sometimes you may want to claim your, what they call it, your firm may want receipt.
Of course.
Yes, correct. Okay, so as you can see here, I'm not so sure whether you can see it correctly or not. Here in the documents here is your payment. There's a button here called view receipt. Of course, I don't think you can see it clearly. I cannot zoom in that too much as well. Okay, so if I zoom in too much, that will happen. So
Yeah,
here there's a button. Okay, so click here, view receipt. You will find the receipt. Very simple. Okay, so I believe right now we are coming to the end of the we are coming to the end of the article. The webinar. We will be reserving 5 minutes to take any form of questions related to pupillage. Am I right, Jonathan?
Yes, we would take we will give at least 5 minutes for the comment section or any of our viewers to pose any questions to us regarding the process and the procedures, and we'll be happy to answer it. If there are no further questions within 5 minutes, we would just leave our contact information or how to contact us for further questions. But yeah, we will give it until about 10 o'clock. Then we would dismiss.
Yes. Okay, so while we wait for the final parts of the question, if any, so I think Jonathan can also mention is that if there's a few support groups that you can join. Of course, it's totally free. Of course, pupils would help each other out. You cannot get all the solutions. You cannot expect that you will get all solutions there, but at least if there's any questions or any form of help that you would want to try and get, join the support groups. At least you won't feel alone. At least you would keep abreast with whatever updated information. The link for the WhatsApp group, I think you can see it on the screen right now. But for the Telegram group, you would have to private message me to get the link. The reason why is I do not want strangers from overseas or strangers who are not part of the legal profession to enter the group. Okay, so it is a very controlled, vetted environment. Okay, of course, the WhatsApp group, it doesn't really matter anymore because the groups are full. Okay, I don't even have to vet it anymore. The 3 WhatsApp groups are full. Nobody can enter the group anymore. Okay, so Telegram, there's over 3,000 plus people there, and the limit is 20,000. There's a few senior lawyers there. There are Malaysian bar representatives there, which will hear your voice if there's anything goes wrong. I may not be able to help, Poon may not be able to help, Jonathan may not be able to help, but I'm very sure the Malaysian bar people or the state bar people there or the senior lawyers there would be able to hear you out. Okay. So
yes, adding to what Weera said, when I was a pupil, I thought the Telegram group and then some groups as well, the KL bar has its own pupils group, which is also helpful. It also offers support regarding to sometimes aspects of substantive law that pupils are not sure about. Effectively, it's a place for you to ask questions you may not want to ask your seniors because you are afraid of looking pretty stupid, which is very normal for all of us pupils. We all face that. And yeah, I think as Weera said, it is strictly for members of the legal profession. So especially like me personally, when I left the legal profession, I left the group as well, just as a courtesy. But yeah, we are reserving time for any questions and feel free to ask any questions. If not, always feel free to reach out to any one of us, either through BrainyLaw or if you know us personally on our social media contacts.
Yes, correct. Okay, so I don't think there would be any more questions, but just to cap it all off, there are all these summaries that you can see on the screen right now, preparing for your long call, for your short call. Okay, so the procedure still remains the same with the exception that if you want to go to RKKK, usually you have to make an appointment nowadays, at least until KL reaches probably phase 3 or phase 4 of the National Recovery Plan. Okay, so it is out of our hands. We lawyers, we cannot control how the courts are to be run. At most, we can raise a complaint, but we cannot tell them to do this or to do that. They run the court, the of course, you know.
Yeah, Desvina has a question. Just to double confirm, to file the AOS, we don't need to include the photocopy of our IC, birth cert, and all that, right? You must just include the letters or emails of which they've returned to us.
Okay, very good question by Daswina, but to answer the question is, whatever you serve to the Malaysian bar or the state bar, you must include it in the AOS, okay? If you have your IC, if you serve and your copy of your IC together with Borang 1, Borang 2, Borang 3, Borang 1 and Borang 2, which you should, then yes, it would have to be included. It's very simple. Whatever you file it to the EFS system, you download the PDF copy, you print it out, you include it in the AOS. Whatever that is served, a copy must also be reproduced into the AOS. That is the proper method lah. Of course, some people may have a different kind of thought. And then of course, whatever you serve, exhibit. Second one, the proof of receipt, also another exhibit. Okay. Correct, right, Pun? Yeah, there's nothing that I left out.
Yeah, I think that's about it. Because AOS wise, you have to produce whatever that you serve. If you prepare a service letter on your own firm or your own personal service letter, yeah, that letter also have to be exhibited.
Okay.
Basically, long story short would be your AOS. Your AOS has to reproduce. There is an exhibit where you have to reproduce exactly what you served, and also the proof that the recipients have received the documents. Okay, we got another question. I haven't yet started to apply for chambering. I just want to know, how do you know that a legal field is suitable for you? Is there like a subjective test or what? This is not the scope of our discussion today, but effectively, everybody has a subjective reason on why they choose the legal field. That field of practice. Everybody is slightly different.
Yes, maybe Poon and Jonathan can answer this question. Like maybe if you want to elaborate 1 or 2 sentences on the issue, maybe.
Poon, if you want to answer it.
As far as if you are thinking whether you are suited for the legal field, I think if you don't want to start the chambering first, you can actually start an internship with any of the law firm, be it a conveyancing law firm or a litigation law firm. Then you can gauge as to whether you are fully adapt to the present situation and the needs of the firm, and see whether you can cope with it. It doesn't need to be after you pass CLP or after you graduate from local U and you straight away jump into the train wagon into chambering. You can just take your time. There's no rush. The more you rush, the more mistake you might make, and that may be your worst. So take your time, think through it. If you need to do internship first before you jump into it. Yep.
Yeah, I fully agree with what Poon has mentioned. Always you have either internships or short-term paralegal roles, especially you can choose a firm or practice area that seems interesting to you. You can do that for a few months, and it is usually, oh, sorry, he means area of practice, not the legal field.
Right.
Then the short answer is it's really down to personal and subjective. I think everybody has their own decisions on which area of practice is suitable for them. But Poon, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, like I said, okay, well, the question is still technically the same. If you think that whether which area of our practice is more suited to you, whether conveyancing, litigation, or corporate, if you have in mind, even during CLP that time, a particular subject or area of practice of law that you feel that you're in love with it, then you can straight away jump on the train wagon and then just apply for a chambering position for that particular area of practice. But if you have no idea or any inclination as to which area of practice that you should do, then preferably I will really suggest you go under an internship or at least paralegal for a couple of months. See whether which area of practice is more suited and you're more comfortable with it.
Yeah. Okay. Last question would be, Hi, from Thomas Lim. Hi, you mentioned that we don't need to have our CLP cert in order to file our Borang 1 at the moment. Weera, do you mind repeating this?
Yes, okay. So you don't need your CLP cert at the moment simply because you won't be able to get it anytime soon. I mean, of course, provided that you pass the CLP exam. Yeah. Okay. Let me just just to make sure that it doesn't get misconstrued. Okay, you can start your pupillage as long as you pass your CLP number one, of course, and then you what they call it, you get the confirmation letter from LPQB confirming that you have passed your CLP. The Malaysian Bar has issued a circular confirming this statement. It also goes the same for BPTC students. Okay, as long as you get that letter of confirmation. Usually for CLP, there's this one part which you say, saya telah memperakui bahawa what they call it, what they call it, the particular person dapat kelas ketiga for CLP.
Yeah. I think that letter has already been it's been sent out already. Yeah. So
Yes, correct. Okay.
Yeah,
So
for BPTC students, you would have to get the INS release letter from your respective inn, Lincoln's Inn, Middle, Inner Temple, Grace Inn. Go to your registrar. You can ask them like, I would like to start my pupillage, and then I haven't had the opportunity to be called. Can you issue me an INS release letter? There's usually not much issue with that. And once they've received your results from your BPTC institution, then they would just release it via email and something. And then you can file that alongside your Borang 1 and 2. But for BPTC pupils, the important thing more so is you need to be called to the UK bar before you file your long call papers 6, 7, and 8. I know some of my friends have been asking whether can they start pupillage and can they be called before call after pupillage. You can not be long call if you are not a barrister in the UK.
yeah. Okay. And
Yeah.
so I agree.
Do we have any other questions? If
There is
we
one. Yep. Okay. There is one part from Daswindra just now mentioned that they insisted AR registered post when I called and asked them. So basically, okay, I'm not so sure which body actually insisted for AR registered post when you called them. Okay, but don't worry. The best solution I would recommend to all pupils, especially those who those who are chambering out of Klang Valley. If you want to serve documents to Malaysian Bar, I believe Malaysian Bar nowadays only accepts documents via email.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They don't accept physical copies, so that is I don't think that's an issue anymore. Okay, but I believe that this statement by Daswindra regarding they insisted AR registered post is in relation to the 32 copies of the Borang II. I assume that is what Daswindra is asking. If she is here, maybe she can clarify on what documents that is. People are insisting, bodies are insisting to be served via AR registered post. You can hire a firm to do it for you here physically. Okay, they only have to print out those documents and they can serve it for you as if you are here. Of course, then you request for the acknowledgement receipt of acknowledgement. Am I right, Poon? Is there anything that I missed out?
I think that's right. That's right. But you see, the thing about Borang II, the standard Borang II is only showing 16 high courts, correct? But
Yes.
since last year, Klang High Court is also part of a new branch of the High Court. So of course, the Borang II haven't been revised yet or amended by Macau Court or even the RKKK. So I think that's a non-issue for now. But we're probably looking at the new version of a Borang II with the new addition of the Klang High Court. So I think new pupils have to keep a lookout on see when is the new Borang II amended going to come up. So that means you have to serve 34 copies instead of 32.
Yes, correct. That is a very good point by Poon. Okay, so it's just that as per what Poon is entirely correct. Okay, is just that from last time, from what we know from RKKK's information as of late, when we asked whether we have to serve it to the, 34 copies because there's a new High Court in Klang right now, it seems that there is no such requirement yet. I would say yet, simply because the requirement is only that one state has one, one state each has one notice on them. Okay, because Shah Alam is already in Selangor. Okay, like for example, you don't serve it to, I'm not so sure whether for Johor, you don't serve it to Johor Bahru and Muar. Okay, we need to check again, but Pun is entirely correct. The procedure might change soon. Okay, and pupils may be required to serve 34 copies instead of 32 copies. Okay, so why not?
Does Weera has updated that the bodies in question is actually the AGC and RKKK? But I would like to chime in that for AGC, it is perfectly acceptable to serve via email. Like I have personally done it, and they would just give you a form reply like we have received receipt dalam mengakui receipt of document kamu or something like that. There's usually not much issue for AGC.
Yes, correct. Okay, so RKKK, I believe that if you want to send physically, some people, they don't want to send their documents physically, like for example, they are from Kelantan, for example. Usually they would have to resort to AR registered post. Also, I've also mentioned courier just now. So even if they don't want to accept courier, best method is you set an appointment with them, hire a law firm or a runner in Kuala Lumpur to do it physically for you instead of AR registered post. Okay, because I don't think they can deny service via personal service. They cannot deny personal service, although it may require appointment to do so. Okay, so
and for personal service, I think we probably should mention this, Weera, but I think for personal service, the drafting of the AOS is slightly different if you get someone else to serve it on your behalf as opposed to personal service.
Correct. Of course, you are right. So whoever serves it for you, he must affirm the affidavit. So if you ask a law firm to do it for you, they would know that sometimes the package comes with affirming the affidavit as well. Okay. But Pun has raised a very, very important point just now, yeah, about the Klang High Court, the existence of Klang High Court. So now that Pun has brought the issue up, I would recommend pupils to just give them extra copies of the 32 the extra copies of the Borang II. Instead of bringing 32, maybe you can bring 36, 40. If they say saya nak 32 saja, then up to them. Okay. Back then, during my time, I brought I think 34 because just for the sake of extra, I'm scared. Okay, so in any event, I think Poon's suggestion is very, very brilliant, lah. Just bring extra copies. Better more than less. Okay, unless it's a problem.
And I think the important thing is when they give you the chopped copy of your Borang II, secure that copy. That will be very, very important later.
Yes. If not, your long call will be delayed. Okay, to be honest with you, the 32 copies I've mentioned it just now is one of the most fatal mistakes, because if you do it late, there's no curing it. Okay, I've once suggested to pupils, since you have served your B2, 32 copies of B2 like 2 months before pupillage, now the court runner don't have time to paste them on the 16 high courts for you. So, can you imagine what's the solution? Takkan you want to you don't do it yourself, exactly. Takkan you want to go to all 16 high court, paste it yourself. Okay? That doesn't make sense. I mean, to be honest, I asked them the possibility of doing so. RKKK said you cannot do so. The service of the same must be done by the court runner. So if it's too late, if you miss the boat, you have to wait for the next boat.
Okay, I guess that's it. We don't have any further questions, but as previously mentioned, Nathan, I think you can bring up the last, the context one last time. Yeah, because as these are not all the problems that people face when filling up their Borangs. I'm quite sure there are many others. So, the previous one. Yeah, like as previously mentioned, these are all the contacts. If you need any further help, and feel free to contact any one of us if there's any further questions. I'm quite pretty sure when we are free, we will be happy to answer any inquiries faced by pupils. But besides that, I think that is it. Thank you, Weera, for answering the questions and guiding us through the process. Thank you, Poon, for the very insightful observation regarding the Klang High Court, as well as your additions throughout the talk. And thank you, Nathan, for helping with the slides and the operations of the talk.
And thanks
yeah,
to you, Jonathan, for joining us today. You've been, I mean,
Yeah.
personally, I felt that you've been a very good moderator, especially at putting the pupils' question at ease, lah. Okay, and also thanks for everyone who joined us today, who take their time to, for their own benefits as well. Of course, just to finish this off is don't just rely on this webinar. Read my articles again. Okay, read them. Don't just read my articles. Read everyone else's article as well. But if you think that there's a confusing discrepancy on what to do, ask before you do something. Okay, it's better to face the problem now than face the problem later. Okay, ask your master. If your master is not that well versed in the procedure, ask your senior. If you don't have any seniors, ask anyone. Ask the RKKK, ask Malaysian Bar, ask Raj, ask whoever you know, ask Poon, Mesian, whoever. Okay, but who knows the process lah, of course. Okay, if you don't, then you probably repeat the same mistakes. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I think I couldn't have put it better myself. So I guess that is the end of our talk today. And once again, thank you everyone for tuning in, and all the best and good luck for Pupillage.
Okay, stay safe, guys. See you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Yeah.